There was a day I did everything right. I checked every box. I hit every mark I'd been told to hit. And that night, sitting in the quiet after all of it, a small voice somewhere behind my ribs asked a simple question. And then what? And I had no answer. Not a sad answer. Not even a scared one. Just nothing. A flat, echoing nothing where the meaning was supposed to be. You've had that day. The promotion that felt like cardboard. The goal you hit that went strangely silent the moment you touched it. The Sunday where everything is fine and something underneath is still asking, quietly, is this it? So stay with me, because I'm going to show you the third road. Not faking a meaning and not giving up on one, a third thing, the one almost nobody is offered. And I'm going to show you why, of every figure in philosophy, the one Camus calls happy is a man condemned to push a boulder up a mountain for the rest of eternity. I'll be honest with you. I waited years for meaning to arrive on its own, the way I'd been promised it would. And when it didn't, I came close to quietly deciding that nothing mattered at all. A man sentenced to roll a rock uphill forever, only to watch it roll back down every time, is somehow the most hopeful image in all of philosophy. By the end of this, you're going to see exactly why. And it's going to change what you do with a meaningless Monday. One honest word before we go down. I don't make these to hand you a purpose. There's no purpose in my pocket to give you. I make them for the person who'd rather build one than keep waiting for it to show up. That's the whole channel. 3 times a week. If that's you, subscribe. And if and then what has ever visited you in the quiet, leave a like. It's how the next person who's asking finds this. Now, the silence, and what we're going to do with it. Here's the story you were handed about your life, probably before you were old enough to question it. The story goes like this. Your life has a meaning. A real one, specific to you, already written somewhere, in your talents, in your calling, in a plan, in the stars, in God's mind, in the shape of the universe itself. And your job, the whole job, is to find it. Search well enough, work hard enough, stay open enough, and one day the meaning reveals itself, and everything you've done clicks into place and finally makes sense. The universe hands you the reason. Nobody sat you down and taught you this in a single lesson. It came in through everything. Through the movies where the hero discovers his destiny. Through the question we ask children, what do you want to be? As if the answer is a thing waiting to be uncovered, not built. Through a whole culture that treats finding your purpose as the central quest of a life. And notice how comforting it is. If the meaning already exists, then you're not responsible for making it. You're just responsible for finding it. The pressure is off. You get to be a searcher, not a creator. And searching feels productive. Searching feels like you're on your way. I believed this completely. For years, I thought meaning was a destination, somewhere ahead, waiting. And if I just kept moving in the right direction, I'd arrive, and it would be there to meet me. But there's a flaw in that story, a crack running straight through the middle of it that nobody warns you about. And you find the crack on the day you actually do your part, the day you finally hit the mark you were told to hit. Because here is the first problem, and it's the one that started everything for me. The meaning doesn't arrive. You do your part, you hit the mark, you get the degree, the title, the relationship, the number in the account, the thing you were sure would carry the reason inside it. And you stand there, finally holding it, and the universe says nothing. No click, no sense of arrival, no voice from somewhere confirming, yes, this was the point. Just the thing itself, sitting in your hands, strangely light. And that same quiet question from before, drifting up again. And then what? This is the part I couldn't say out loud for a long time, because it sounds ungrateful. I had built a life that, on paper, made sense. And I kept waiting for it to feel like it made sense. I thought the meaning was running late, that it was coming in the next achievement, the next stage, the next arrival. So I kept reaching for the next mark, certain the reason was hiding one rung higher. It never was. I was climbing a ladder, waiting for the ladder to explain why I was climbing. And let me be very clear about what this is, because it's easy to mistake it for depression or ingratitude or a phase. It isn't necessarily any of those. It's something more basic. It's the first honest look at a gap, the gap between how much meaning we hunger for and how little the universe volunteers on its own. You wanted the world to hand you a reason, and the world, it turns out, is quiet. So what do you do standing in that silence? You do one of two things, and both of them feel like an answer. Neither of them is. The first thing you can do is grab a meaning. Fast. Any meaning, as long as it's certain and it shuts the question up. You throw yourself into a cause, an identity, a belief system, a hustle, a person, not because you've examined it, but because the not knowing had become unbearable, and here is something that promises to know for you. And it works for a while. The question goes quiet. The relief is real. But notice what actually happened. You didn't answer the silence. You just found something loud enough to cover it. Camus had a hard name for this move. He called it philosophical suicide, the leap where you kill the question instead of living with it, where you hand your hunger for meaning to something that pre-chews the answer so you never have to taste the uncertainty again. And the second thing you can do is the opposite. You stop reaching entirely. If the universe won't hand you a reason, then fine, there is no reason, and you let that harden into a quiet verdict. Nothing matters. Nothing means anything. It arrives dressed as sophistication, as seeing through the illusion, as being too clever to be fooled. I want to be careful here, because for some people that flatness isn't a pose at all, it's a real weight, and if it's sitting on you right now in a way that feels less like philosophy and more like drowning, that's not a thought to argue with alone. That's a moment to reach for another human being. I'll come back to that. But as a stance, as a chosen conclusion, nothing matters, Camus rejected it just as hard as the first one, because it's the same move wearing black. You still couldn't stand in the open question. You just closed it from the other side. That's what nobody tells you. The believer forcing a meaning and the cynic denying all of them are doing the exact same thing, fleeing the silence. One runs toward a wall to lean on. The other burns the room down so there's nothing left to hold. Both of them get to stop feeling the gap. But there's a third move here. It's rarer, and it's harder, and it's the whole reason for this video. And before I show it to you, I have to show you the escape that's even more common than these two, the one so quiet you won't even recognize it as running. One honest pause here, right in the middle. I'm not gating anything. The third road, the way through that isn't despair and isn't a comforting lie, is coming, all of it, in a few minutes. I don't hide the real answer behind a paywall. But let me tell you why the link matters anyway. A slow, careful video about meaning. One that refuses to sell you a purpose in 10 easy steps, barely survives out here. The feed rewards the opposite of this. Videos like this one keep existing only because some people decide to fund them directly, human to human, instead of letting an algorithm decide what you're allowed to think about. If this has been worth something to you, the Buy Me a Coffee link is in the description. Pay what you want, pay nothing, and stay anyway. That's genuinely fine. And here's why you'll want to stay, specifically. We've covered two escapes, forcing a false meaning, and giving up on meaning altogether. But the most common escape of all is the third one, and it's the one you'd never call an escape. It looks like a normal, busy, responsible life. That's next. And then, finally, the way out. The third escape is the one I lived in the longest, and it's the one I'm most reluctant to admit, because it doesn't look like avoidance. It looks like a life. You don't force a meaning. You don't declare that nothing matters. You do something much smoother than either. You just make sure the question never gets a chance to ask itself. You arrange your entire life so the silence never opens up long enough to be heard. Look at how it's built. Every hour accounted for. A calendar with no gaps. A phone that fills the pause between one task and the next. Noise in the car, a screen at dinner, something playing the moment you walk through the door. You call it being busy. You call it being productive, being responsible, being a person with a lot going on. And some of it is, but underneath the schedule, there's a design you'd never confess to. Every distraction is a small wall built against the exact moment from the start of this video. The moment the noise stops and something in you asks, "And then what?" This is the cleverest escape, because the world applauds it. Nobody stages an intervention for the man who's simply very busy. You get praised for the very thing that's keeping you asleep. And this is where most people spend their whole lives, not in despair, not in delusion, just in motion. Endless, well-reviewed motion, carefully engineered so the ground never has to open. I did this for years. I told myself I was ambitious. What I actually was afraid. Afraid of one quiet Monday with nothing to fill it, because I knew what would come up if I let it. The question I'd been outrunning since that first night. So those are the three doors. Force a meaning, deny all meaning, or bury the question under a life too loud to hear it. 3 ways of running. And every one of them requires you to never actually face the thing itself. But there was a man who faced it, who stood in that exact silence and refused all 3 doors. And what he did instead is one of the strangest, most stubborn, most quietly hopeful ideas a human being has ever had. His name was Albert Camus, a French-Algerian writer, born in 1913, who won the Nobel Prize in 1957 and died 3 years later in a car crash with an unused train ticket in his pocket. A man who wrote about absurdity and then was killed by it. In 1942, in the middle of a world at war, he published an essay called The Myth of Sisyphus, and he began it by refusing to look away from the very thing all 3 doors are built to avoid. He gave the gap a name, the absurd. Not that life is stupid or bad. The absurd, for Camus, is precisely that collision we've been circling this whole time, a human being who aches for meaning, standing in front of a universe that stays silent. That's it. That's the absurd. Not a mood. A relationship between your hunger and the world's quiet. And here's where Camus does the thing almost no one has the nerve to do. He says, don't resolve it. Don't leap to a false meaning to escape it, and don't collapse into despair to escape it either. Both of those, he says, are ways of running from the absurd, and the only honest life is one that keeps the absurd alive, that holds the tension open, eyes wide, and lives anyway. He calls that revolt, not anger. Revolt, the refusal to either lie about the silence or be crushed by it. And then he does something that sounds, at first, insane. He points to Sisyphus. You know the myth, the man the gods condemned to roll a boulder up a mountain, watch it roll back down, and start again, forever. The Greeks meant it as the ultimate punishment, pointless labor for eternity. And Camus looks at this figure, this poster child for a meaningless existence, and he says the strangest sentence in modern philosophy. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Let me be very clear about why, because if you miss this, you miss everything. Sisyphus is not happy because the rock finally means something. The rock means nothing. The universe never justifies the climb. He's happy because he stopped demanding that it would. He stopped waiting for the mountain to explain itself, and he claimed the rock as his struggle, his effort, chosen and owned instead of merely suffered. The meaning didn't come down from the top of the mountain. He made it on the way up by giving himself fully to the one thing in front of him. The boulder never changed. The man did. That's the answer to the loop I opened at the very start. A man condemned to push a rock uphill forever is the most hopeful image in philosophy because he is proof that a human being can generate meaning with his own hands, in full view of a silent sky, and need nothing from the universe to do it. I made a whole video once about the life you keep refusing to live. I'll put it on a card up there. And here is exactly where it meets Camus. The meaning was never going to be handed down. It's that life, the one you keep waiting to feel sure about before you'll fully live it, lived anyway, on purpose, without the guarantee ever arriving. You don't find the point. You pick it up, and you push it uphill, and you call it yours. And if part of you is thinking this is just a poetic story to feel better with, it isn't only that. There's a study I want you to sit with. In 2014, in psychological science, researchers Hill and Turiano followed thousands of people over 14 years and found that having a sense of purpose in life predicted living longer, a lower risk of dying across the whole span, at every age, even after accounting for other markers of well-being. Read that carefully. The meaning you construct isn't a decoration you paint over an empty life. It does something. It holds a person to the earth. Sisyphus, it turns out, doesn't just endure the mountain better. He lasts longer on it. So if meaning is made and not found, then the question you've been asking your whole life has been the wrong one. You've been asking, what is my meaning, as if it's an object to locate. The real question is a verb, not what is my meaning, but what will I give myself to? That shift, from finding to giving, is the entire turn. So let me slow down and make it concrete, because it changes everything about how you hold your own life. Meaning is not a noun you locate, it's a verb you perform. It doesn't exist out there, finished, waiting for you to stumble onto it. It comes into being in the act of commitment, in the moment you take something, anything, and decide to pour yourself into it as if it matters, knowing full well the universe will not confirm that it does. The meaning is generated by the pouring, not before it. Not as a reward at the end of it, during it, and I know how that can sound, like I'm telling you to just pick something at random and pretend. That's not it. It isn't pretending, because you're not lying to yourself that the cosmos ordained it. You're doing something more honest than that. You're saying, the universe is silent, fine. I heard it. I'm not arguing, and I am going to give weight to this thing regardless. Not because I was told to, but because I chose to, and my choosing is enough to make it real. That's the revolt Camus was talking about. Not a grand rebellion. A daily one. You, giving a damn on purpose, in a world that never asked you to. Here's the part that took me years to feel, not just understand. The freedom in this is enormous, and it's terrifying in equal measure. If meaning is handed to you, you're safe but you're passive. You can only wait and hope you find the right one. If meaning is made, then there's no external permission slip, no cosmic sign-off, ever. But it also means you were never actually stuck waiting. You could have started generating it at any point. The mountain was never going to speak. But your hands were always free to pick up the rock. That's the philosophy. But philosophy is easy to nod along to and impossible to feel at 7 in the morning on a gray, pointless Monday. So let me bring this all the way down to the ground, to what this actually looks like when you're standing in your own kitchen, and nothing feels like it means anything at all. It looks smaller than you'd want it to. That's the first thing. There's no lightning. You don't get struck with purpose in the kitchen. What you do instead is pick one thing, just one, and give it your whole weight, on purpose, without waiting to feel inspired first. Here's what I mean practically. Stop auditioning commitments. Most people treat every possible thing they could care about like a job interview for the role of my great purpose. They hold it at arm's length, testing, asking, but is this the one? Is this big enough? Will this justify itself? And because nothing ever passes that test, they commit to nothing and call it keeping their options open. That's just waiting for the mountain to speak in a nicer outfit. Instead, choose the rock in front of you, the work you're actually doing, the person actually beside you, the craft, the child, the garden, the sentence you're trying to write, and push it, fully, not because it came stamped with cosmic significance, but because your full attention is the thing that makes it significant. And drop the demand for a guarantee before you begin. This is the hardest part, and the most freeing. You will not get a sign that this is worth it before you invest in it. The weight comes after you commit, not before. Sisyphus doesn't wait for the boulder to feel meaningful and then push. He pushes, and the pushing is where the meaning lives. So you don't need to solve your entire life this week. You need to find one boulder and stop asking it to justify itself. I'll be honest about how this goes, because I'm not selling you a cure. Some mornings the silence still wins. Some Mondays I still stand there and feel the whole thing go flat. The difference now is that I know the flatness isn't a verdict on my life. It's just the universe being quiet, the way it always is, and I know I don't have to wait for it to speak before I pick the rock back up. That's not nothing. That's most of the war. But maybe this is still too abstract, so let me show you two people living the exact same meaningless Monday and doing two completely opposite things with it. Two people, same city, same gray morning, same alarm at the same hour. Neither of them woke up with a sense of cosmic purpose. Both of them, if you asked, would tell you the day ahead means nothing in particular. So far, they're identical. The first one is waiting. Not consciously. He'd never put it this way, but everything in how he moves through the day is a form of waiting. He does the work, but held at a distance, half of him always somewhere else, scanning for the sign that hasn't come. He's waiting to feel motivated before he engages. Waiting for the job to reveal why it matters. Waiting for the relationship to finally deliver the certainty. He treats the present moment as a waiting room for a meaning scheduled to arrive later. And because it never arrives, the day stays flat and weightless and forgettable. He gets to the evening and can't tell you what any of it was for. He's technically alive and functionally on hold. The second one, same flat Monday, does something quietly radical. She stops waiting. She picks the thing in front of her, the report, the lesson, the difficult conversation, the meal she's making for someone, and she gives it everything. Not because a voice told her it was her destiny, but because she has decided her attention is going to land somewhere and mean something, and it might as well be here, now, on purpose. She's not faking enthusiasm. She's underneath enthusiasm in something steadier. She's rolling her boulder, and she's chosen to make it hers. And here's the strange part. By the end of the day, the meaningless Monday has weight. Not because the universe granted it any, because she did. Same day, same silence overhead. One of them was pushed through it, passive, waiting for a reason. The other one picked up the rock. And the entire difference between a life that feels empty and a life that feels like yours is living in that one gap, not in what happens to you, but in whether you're waiting for the meaning or making it. Now, before you run off to heroically pick up a boulder, I have to stop you. Because this idea is easy to get wrong in two specific ways, and both of them will quietly undo everything we just built. I owe you the honest version. The first trap is the cool one. You take everything I just said and you flatten it into a pose. Nothing has inherent meaning, so nothing matters, so whatever. You wear the absurd like a leather jacket. You get to be the person who's seen through it all, too smart to care, above the whole embarrassing business of trying. But look at what you actually did there. You heard the universe won't hand you meaning, and you quietly added, so I refuse to make any. That's not Camus. That is the exact despair he spent the whole essay rejecting, just dressed up as sophistication. The nihilist and the true believer are still the same two people from earlier. Both of them let go of the rock. Revolt is the opposite of that shrug. Revolt is caring on purpose precisely because nothing forces you to. The shrug is easy. Owning your rock in a silent universe is the hard, brave thing. Don't confuse the costume of depth for the weight of it. The second trap is subtler, and I've fallen into it myself. You take meaning is made, and you turn it into a new productivity religion, a frantic manufacturing of big purpose, optimizing your chosen rock, measuring it, turning your one honest commitment into another performance you can fail at. That's just the old hunt for a handed-down meaning, wearing a new mask. You don't have to make it enormous. You have to make it yours. There's a difference, and the difference is everything. And now the most important thing I'll say in this entire video, and I want to step out of the philosophy completely to say it. Everything so far has been about the absurd as an idea. But for some people, the sense that nothing means anything is not an idea at all. It's a weight. It's a fog that doesn't lift. It comes with not sleeping, or not eating, or not being able to feel much of anything, and it can carry thoughts of not wanting to be here. If that's where you are, if this isn't a philosophy lecture for you, but a description of your week, then please hear me clearly. That is not a puzzle to solve alone at 3 in the morning, and it is not weakness, and Camus is not the answer to it. A real person is. Talk to someone you trust, or a doctor, or a helpline. I've put one in the description. Reaching for another human being when the silence gets that heavy is not giving up. It is the single most life-affirming thing a person can do, and it is exactly the direction everything Camus wrote points toward. He was never arguing for the darkness. He was arguing stubbornly for staying and for being here to push the rock at all. So, with both traps named, and that said plainly, what's left is small, and it's yours, and it's the only thing this whole video was ever really asking of you. So here it is, not a plan, not 10 steps, one move. Pick a rock. 1. Today, something already in front of you. The work, the person, the practice, the thing you've been holding at arm's length while you wait to be sure it's worthy. Stop waiting. It's never going to pass inspection, because the inspector, the universe, the sign, the guarantee was never coming. You already know that now. You've known it since the day the meaning didn't arrive. And push it, not because the mountain will thank you, it won't. Not because you'll reach a top where it all finally makes sense. There is no top. The rock rolls back down. That's the deal, for Sisyphus and for you. Push it because you decided it's yours, and your deciding is the whole thing, the only meaning there was ever going to be, made by your own hands, in a universe that will stay silent and let you do it anyway. And here's the part I want you to actually feel, not just hear. Camus didn't say imagine Sisyphus surviving. He didn't say enduring or coping or grimly getting through. He said imagine him happy. Happy in the pushing itself, not at some finish line. The joy was never going to be waiting at the summit. It was always available in the choosing, in the wait, in the fact that this is your rock and you picked it up. The silence you've been running from your whole life is still going to be there tonight. That never changes. What can change, starting now, is that you stop waiting for it to speak first. You go quiet with it, and then you reach down, and you pick up the one thing you've decided to give your life to, and you push. Not someday, when you close this. So which one is your rock, and what are you still waiting to be sure of before you finally let yourself pick it up? Remember the boulder from the very beginning? You've got one. Everyone watching this does. So here's where a few of us stop pretending together, out loud. In the comments, name it. Name the rock you'd push even with no cosmic reason to, the one thing you'd give weight to simply because you chose it, not because the universe signed off. Be specific. Reading through those, seeing what other people decided to make matter with no permission from anyone, is its own strange kind of meaning. A room full of people picking up their rocks at the same time. And if someone you know has been quietly asking what's the point lately, send them this. Not as a lecture, as a hand. If you want more of this, work that tries to build meaning instead of selling it to you in 5 easy steps, subscribing is how you keep it coming, and it's free. And if a slow video like this one was worth something, the Buy Me a Coffee link is in the description. This channel is funded by humans, not algorithms, and that's the only reason it can move at this pace. I'll be here Friday with a different rock entirely. And one last thing, said plainly, because it matters more than any of the rest. If the meaninglessness has felt heavy lately in a way that isn't philosophical, if it's been sitting on your chest, please reach out to someone. There's a support line in the description. Picking up the rock is the work of a life. But first, you have to still be here to pick it up. Stay.